The year is 476 CE. In the heart of Rome, the city is eerily quiet. There's no battle, no last stand, just silence. The emperor, a boy named Romulus Augustulus, is gone. No drama, no heroics, just a quiet resignation. The end of the Western Roman Empire isn't a cataclysm. It's a candle, snuffed out, not a city in flames. Rome's people wake to a world without an emperor, but life goes on. Markets open, aqueducts flow, the sun rises. The machinery of the Roman state, its bureaucracy, laws and traditions, keeps turning. The emperor's absence is a political fact, not a daily disaster. The real story is one of gradual transformation, not sudden collapse. The office of Western Emperor had become symbolic, its power long since faded. For most Romans, the emperor was a distant figure, a face on a coin. His disappearance confirms what many already knew. Power had shifted, fragmented, and was being redefined. The silence in Rome's halls of power marks not an end, but the start of a new, uncertain chapter. For the powerful, it's a political realignment. For ordinary people, life's concerns, harvests, taxes, security, remain unchanged. The idea of Rome proves more resilient than any single ruler. The world has changed, but not in the way legends would have us believe. We're taught that 476 CE was a dramatic collapse, barbarians sacking Rome, civilization ending overnight, but that's a myth. The real story is far more complex. The Western Roman Empire didn't die, it transformed. Power had been shifting for generations, from emperors to regional strongmen, many of them barbarians who were deeply Romanized. These men weren't outsiders bent on destruction. They wanted Rome's wealth and prestige, not its ruin. No one in 477 CE woke up and said, "Rome has fallen." Life continued. The Senate met, laws were enforced, people still called themselves Romans. The change was in governance, not civilization. Odoacer, the new ruler, didn't destroy Rome. He governed within its framework, respecting its traditions. The myth of sudden collapse simplifies history, but obscures the reality of continuity. Roman law, culture, language, and Christianity survived and became the bedrock of medieval Europe. The legacy of Rome wasn't buried, it was carried forward and adapted by new kingdoms. Understanding this period as a transition, not an end, reveals a fascinating story of survival and reinvention. The so-called fall was a transformation, not an apocalypse. The world didn't end, it evolved. Rome's influence endured, shaping the future of Europe. Why was the emperor's throne so easily vacated? The Western Empire was exhausted, its economy in decline, its treasury empty. Civil wars and invasions had drained resources. The government debased its currency, causing rampant inflation. The gap between rich and poor widened. Small farmers lost their land, slipping into near serfdom. The political scene was chaos. Emperors were puppets, installed and murdered by powerful generals like Ricimer. Real power lay with these kingmakers, not the emperors. Instability left the empire's borders vulnerable. Provinces like Britain, Gaul, and Spain slipped away, ruled by new kings. By 476 CE, the Western emperor controlled little beyond Italy. Rome itself had been sacked twice, shattering its myth of invincibility. The capital moved to Ravenna, while Rome became a symbol, not a center of power. The empire was a hollow shell, ready to fall at the next strong wind. It wasn't a mighty oak felled in a storm, but a tree rotted from within. The end was inevitable, and almost anticlimactic. The final act wasn't a grand battle, but a quiet coup. Romulus Augustulus, a boy emperor, was placed on the throne by his father Orestes, a powerful general. Orestes ruled through his son, but failed to pay the Federate troops, barbarian soldiers who made up most of the army. Their leader, Odoacer, was a Roman general of Germanic descent, not an invader, but a product of Rome's own system. When Orestes broke his promises, the troops revolted and proclaimed Odoacer king. Odoacer quickly defeated Orestes, who was executed. Romulus, powerless and alone, faced Odoacer's army. There was no dramatic siege, just a forced abdication. Odoacer spared Romulus, recognizing his youth and innocence. On September 4, 476 CE, Romulus Augustulus abdicated, ending the line of Western Roman emperors. Odoacer entered Ravenna not as a destroyer, but as Italy's new master. The transition was swift and almost bloodless. The Western imperial office ended not with a bang, but with a signature. The last emperor's reign had lasted less than a year. The empire's end was quiet, almost gentle. A new era had begun. With Romulus deposed, Odoacer broke with tradition. He didn't appoint a new puppet emperor or claim the title himself. Instead, he sent a message to the Eastern Emperor, Zeno, in Constantinople. The Roman Senate declared the West no longer needed its own emperor. One emperor was enough for the whole Roman world. Odoacer asked Zeno to recognize him as Italy's governor, not as emperor. He sent the imperial regalia, the crown, robes, and scepter, to Constantinople, symbolically closing the Western imperial office. Zeno, facing his own troubles, accepted the situation, granting Odoacer the title of patrician. Odoacer ruled Italy in Zeno's name, maintaining the legal fiction of imperial unity. The West's crown was returned to the East, acknowledging the supremacy of Constantinople. The Western Empire was gone, but the idea of Rome endured. Odoacer's move was a masterstroke of diplomacy and realism. What changed for ordinary people? Very little. Odoacer's goal was stability, not revolution. He kept the Roman administration, laws and officials in place. The courts, bureaucracy and senate continued to function as before. Odoacer tolerated the Roman Church and maintained public order. Coins still bore the names of emperors, reinforcing continuity. Life went on. Bakers baked, farmers farmed, taxes were collected. The real change was peace. After decades of chaos, Odoacer's rule brought stability. For many, the fall of Rome meant newfound order, not disaster. The Senate, long a symbol of Roman tradition, survived the empire's end. Under Odoacer, it regained some local authority, managing civic affairs and public works. Odoacer respected the Senate, seeking its support to legitimize his rule. Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor, was spared and given a comfortable retirement by the Bay of Naples. His peaceful fate symbolized the managed, not chaotic, transition. Odoacer's magnanimity reassured the Roman elite. He was a ruler, not a destroyer. For 17 years, Italy enjoyed rare stability. But Odoacer's success drew the attention of the Eastern Emperor Zeno, who invited Theoderic the Ostrogoth to invade. In 493 CE, Odoacer was killed, and a new chapter began. Theoderic's victory didn't reverse the changes of 476 CE. Like Odoacer, he ruled as king, not emperor, preserving Roman law and working with the Senate. The Ostrogothic kingdom blended Roman and Germanic traditions, continuing the process of transformation. The Western Empire's end was not a fall into darkness, but the start of medieval Europe. Successor kingdoms, Franks, Visigoths, Ostrogoths, blended Roman administration with new leadership. Latin evolved, the Church grew in power, and Roman ideas endured. The legacy of 476 CE is one of adaptation, not destruction. Rome's influence shaped Europe's future, echoing through centuries. The most profound changes are often quiet, gradual, and almost invisible at first. The silent pivot of 476 CE set Europe on a new course, proof that history's greatest shifts are rarely loud.